Welcome to Project Synapse. We are back for our weekly show, and this is a show we started some time ago. It really didn't start as a show. It started as a group of us meeting every week just to talk about things in AI and help ourselves keep up and understand what was happening. And we decided to share that, and it actually became pretty popular. So that's our show, Project Synapse. This week, we got a little bit of a twist. For the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at all kinds of aspects of AI, security, some of the social impacts, exploration of this. And I think we got a little off track from what we tried to balance with, which was the idea of being playful with the technology and understand what was happening out there. And so we wanted to do that. So no better person to do that than Marcel Gagner, who's going to lead us through this show. And that's because Marcel he actually, we always kid him about having a lot of time on his hands or money to waste.
I don't.
But Marcel's obsessed. Let's just leave it at that. It's like he's obsessed with learning and is often the guy who comes to us and says, hey, check this out. So we're going to turn that on you out there in the audience and let you hear Marcel say, hey, check this out. Marcel, welcome.
If you look up OCD
Good morning.
Good morning. You'll see a picture of Marcel.
If you what?
If you look up OCD in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Marcel.
Oh, gosh.
Obsessed.
Obsessed.
We don't look up in the dictionary anymore. If you go onto Comet and get perplexity,
sorry, yes,
type that in, you'll see a picture of Marcel.
Okay,
yeah.
This is our very first digression. Okay,
this is why we never get to this stuff.
I want to say that because of you, I re-signed up for a Perplexity Pro, so I could, and because they gave me access to Comet, even though I had canceled my subscription, they gave me access to Comet, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take it out, and I have to admit, I'm kind of like, meh,
okay,
I'm still not on board the Perplexity train the way you guys are. So, just saying.
Yeah. Wow. Well, okay.
I'm still on the waiting list for Comet. So
when I come to your bankruptcy hearings, I'll explain this, as any good friend would do. But we're not gonna argue Max or Perplexity. We're going to talk about some of the technology that you've been looking at over the past while, because some of it's pretty astonishing.
Well, needless to say, there are a lot of tools these days. Okay, I mean, and in fact, it's virtually impossible to say, this is the best of the best of the best, and this is what I should be putting my money down on. We joke about the idea that I spend, far too much money on subscriptions on a monthly basis for these various things, and there is truth to that. In fact, there's a lot of truth to that.
And we only do it while your wife's at work. We never,
That's right. That's right. And she never listens to the shows.
Thank God. Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so the first thing that I sort of wanted to point out was that I wanted to, I don't want to bury the lead here. I'm going to jump in and say, look, if you really want to get a feel for what's happening with this stuff, you're going to have to spend some money. Okay. There are almost every one of these sites is a free tier, and they're going to offer you, a limited number of credits or a slower speed access to whatever it is. But if you actually really want to get the feel for something, you should plunk down at least $20 a month with one of these. And to make this as simple as possible for people, there are two. Despite the fact that you're a huge Perplexity fan, there are two that I would recommend out of the gate. One of them is you go with OpenAI. You can say whatever you want about Sam Altman and OpenAI and whether it's open, and anything like that. But the fact of the matter is there are two big leaders that are way out there in terms of what they offer in AI models. And I'm not just talking about large language models. I'm talking about, video and images and things like this, thinking models and so forth. One of them is OpenAI and the other one is Google. You can't go wrong dropping your money on either OpenAI or Google. And I struggle to decide which one is actually worth more. They both have their strengths, but these days, Google has been hitting it out of the proverbial park. And which doesn't mean that I still don't have some issues with what Google is doing or how they're doing things. But there's some amazing, amazing stuff coming out of Google these days. And I do want to tack on to some of those. So right out of the gate, look, if you want to really start to get a feel for these things, if you want this stuff to make a difference in your life, go with OpenAI, go with Google. If you want, go both, but pick one if you only have $20 a month and go with that. You're going to get something out of it a lot more than you can with the free tier. And no, I'm not getting a cutback from Google or OpenAI. Like
No, because
this is not an
they
affiliate.
don't care
this
about
is not
us.
an affiliate thing.
Yeah.
They do not care about us.
Yeah.
Just to jump in for a second, one of the things that I'd also add is, and I agree with you about OpenAI and Google, but I think for the audience, at the end of the day, use what you're comfortable with. So certainly go and check out the OpenAI and Google, but also look at Claude and all these other tools to see which ones work best for you.
What an admirable sentiment that is. But the idea, though, I think that you're coming up with, Marcel, is you got to lay some cash down for at least one or two of the paid versions, and you don't have to blow your mind on this stuff. You can do. I've got, like you, I've got Claude and I've got Google I'm paying for, and I've got OpenAI I'm paying for, and a couple of other things. It amounts to a couple $100 a month, but I use them effectively in podcasts and everything I do. So it's not a waste of money. My time would be just I couldn't function. I would not have any time to spend in the day doing all the things that I do, without that. But so we know that the experimentation is a good thing. Let's take a couple of examples and walk through some of them. Are you going to share your screen as well?
Yeah, well, I'll share my screen, and just for the record, we one of the first things I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to take a screenshot of the three of us. So smile, don't smile, I don't care. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to take a screenshot.
God, I keep saying to him, "Could I have hair?"
Okay, all right. Don't blink for a second, okay? All right, good stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Riverside screen with the three images, not necessarily what people normally see, when they're looking at us, because obviously, when you're watching the video, you see the images bounce back and forth. We go full screen from the person who's talking. Occasionally you see the three of us, but usually you don't see the three of us that way. So the thing that's been getting all of the attention this week, and it is rightfully getting all the attention, is a little something called Nano Banana. Now, there was actually, and I didn't actually want to start here, but it's, if you'll pardon the expression, these bananas are low-hanging fruit. Get it?
No. Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
That's even edit proof. I can't take that out in the edit.
Oh,
One thing to remind people, though, is a lot of our listeners, a lot of people are listeners to this. So we'll try and describe what we've got here. But if you are listening and you want to watch this, we are on YouTube. And we will post a YouTube version of this as well. And you can find it either on YouTube or you can find it on the website. I'll mention that at the end. But we'll paint a visual picture for you. I am
all right, there you go.
Van Gogh of words.
Oh, well, that's really, really pushing it. But what the hell?
The Andy Warhol? The paint by number of words. Okay.
Okay. Is that how we're doing this? Okay. So anyway, I'm showing you my screen here at the moment. I'm going to collapse the menu on the side so that it's not quite as interesting. This is Gemini. So just to paint the picture a little bit more, about a little over a week ago, a model showed up on LM Arena, which was this image editor that was beyond anything anybody had seen before in AI editors. It was frankly amazing. And everybody started playing with it, and it showed up as Nano Banana. And people were trying to figure out where this thing came from. And because it was so incredibly advanced, what you could do with it, people started thinking, this is probably Google at work. Okay, this is probably building on Genie, which we'll talk about a little bit later here, and Emergent 4, their latest image model. And this is who we're taking a look at. And of course, a few days later, and within a couple of days, people from Google DeepMind started posting bananas and pictures of them with bananas and stuff like that, So the hint was, yes, it was definitely. And then they had the Pixel 10 events, or the Google hardware event, where they announced that, yes, in fact, it was this new image model. And finally, they rolled it into Gemini 2.5 Flash image generator instead of Nano Banana. So the actual name now is Gemini 2.5 Flash image generator. if that,
You still need to come up with better.
No Nano Banana. So I took a screenshot of the three of us, and the screenshot, maybe I can, no, the screenshot won't show up because I'm sharing the Gemini screen at the moment. But tell me about this image. So you should see the three of us there on the screen, right?
Yep, I can see three of us. Yep.
Yeah, three guys on a video call doing a podcast. So it figures it out based on the names, you, Marcel Gagner in the middle. Okay, so now I'm going to say, take
Wait
this
a minute. It figured it out. It figured out you're in the middle because it's reading. Oh, because it's reading your label. Okay.
The label on the screen, right? Right. Okay. So what you have to understand about this model is it understands context. It understands real world physics. It understands all sorts of interesting things. And so I could say something like this. I could say these people are in separate locations. Put them on the shore of Toronto Island with the skyscape or cityscape of Toronto as seen from the island behind them. Seen from the island behind them. Now that's a pretty insane.
Change where we are.
I'm going to take us out of the headshots. Okay, so I'm going to take the headshots, and it's going to have to imagine what we look like from something other than the headshots. It's going to have to figure out where Toronto Island is, what the city looks like behind, and it's going to have to put us on the island. And what's really amazing about this thing, so I just clicked enter here. What's really amazing thing is how fast this sucker is. Like, it is incredibly quick. Got it. Here are John, Marcel, and Jim together on Toronto Island with our podcast microphones.
And you've got to see this if you're listening to this. This is really incredible. There's the picture of the skyline of Toronto. We are standing, and we've gone from headshots to full body shots. And actually, it's not slimming. It's not. I was hoping. No, but we look remarkably real.
We do, and what's interesting about that is I can say, so I don't want the microphones in front. Take the microphones away.
Okay.
And you can sort of insert things as you go along. So if I wanted to, so there you go. So now.
This is phenomenal.
Okay. So if Adobe is paying any attention at the moment, they're either working really, really hard to incorporate this stuff into their product, or they should be running scared, because I'm making edits on the fly that would take somebody in Adobe, maybe it only takes them a few minutes to do this, but they'd have to go out and look for the shot, composite, and let me blow your mind a little tiny bit more here. Let me see them from the back.
Okay,
So now it has to imagine what Toronto Island looks like on the other side. Maybe it'll make something up at this point. I'm not entirely sure. But it has to show us, still enjoying the view. Oh, well, it only turned two of us around. Jim apparently doesn't want to look at the Toronto skyline.
Apparently my butt looks like my face somehow.
Jim doesn't want to do that. Okay, so let's go back to the previous image and make it a dark, cloudy day with where it looks like it might rain at any moment. And again, you can just describe things, okay? And the level of description that you can put in this thing is a little bit insane. So going back to the previous image, facing forward, and there you go. And it remembers how things look, and it remembers context, and it makes the appropriate shadows. You can see the gloominess. In fact, let me full screen this so that you can see it a little bit better there. The gloominess around us, and it's
changed the whole dynamic of the shot. So we've had one fail. But we've had one fail, and that was it couldn't flip the people around, all three people around. Relatively minor given, and I don't know how many people have worked with this. I work with images a lot. We need them for thumbnails. I need them for editorial pieces. I need them for marketing and all of those things. So I'm using this for the publishing part of the business. And one of my biggest frustrations has been you can spend... you might as well just get somebody who's good with Adobe to fix the picture, because you get 98% of the way there and you just can't get it to the level that you want to send it out. And part of that is there's always something there. There's a microphone in the shot. There's something. And when you ask ChatGPT, or even it's gotten way better. It used to be that you couldn't get text to spell words correctly. So you would always have those problems. But this, you're able to substitute. Oh, look at this. You put a Volkswagen into the shot. I mean,
you put the love bug.
Love bug. Of course, it made it red for some strange reason, but hey, what the hell?
Yeah. Amazing. So this is a tool that people should look at. What is it? We'll put a list of links up, but just so clearly so
this
people know what
this is part of Google's Gemini. Okay, so this comes with Google's Gemini product. Okay, I know at the moment I'm giving Google an awful lot of creds, but that's because they're doing some amazing stuff. Now, there are a couple of, as you can tell, like they're a little, things sometimes don't work out exactly the way, but you can say, hey, go back to the previous image and do things this way. The one big thing that I have against this that drives me kind of bananas is if you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of that image, there is the little Gemini watermark there, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you can obviously edit that out. If you want to use this image and you don't want it to show that, you can edit that out. The reason I wanted to do the love bug there is I wanted to show you what somebody, there can be all sorts of reasons for doing this, but you can also take an additional image and say, bring this image into the shot, like bring this other person into the shot. Like, for instance, let me switch over to another tab here, which you won't see at the moment. But
Marcel, this is kind of similar to some of the things that they show in their commercials for their camera or their phones too, right? Where like you talk about bringing another shot in. There was a commercial I saw recently where they had taken a picture of 4 or 5 people, and they needed to add one more person, the person that was actually taking the shot. So they swapped the person with the camera and took that other shot, and ultimately they're all in the same picture. I'm assuming that it's all similar technology that they've managed to rope into Gemini.
Similar technology. That's a tough one because, of course, I don't know what the technology is at the core, because a hell of a lot is happening and there's like some serious processing happening in the background here. We know that I'll play the video. I'll play a few seconds of the video, and hopefully you can leave that in there as well, Jim, from the event that happened, the Genie 3 event, which is the world models. What Google appears to be doing is they're trying to generate world models so that you can actually use those to build live interactive 3D environments so that the system actually understands everything that there is. So I'm going to say copy this image. So what I did is in another tab here, which I know you're not seeing at the moment because I'm strictly on this tab, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to just put that down for a second, and I'm going to say, describe this image for me. And I'm going to say like this, and I just created a little image of Little Red Riding Hood. I said, create an image of Little Red Riding Hood.
How cute.
And I did this one in ChatGPT, okay? Okay,
Yep.
Looks like a classic illustration of Little Red Riding Hood. So it understands that. Okay, so put Little Red Riding Hood, Little Red Riding, Riding Hood on the shore beside John in the previous image. And let's see how this works out. Now, by the way, I'm doing this on the fly. Like, I haven't tested all of these images beforehand, but I've been playing enough with Nano Banana. With Gemini 2.5 Flash image generator. I like Nano Banana a lot better.
It's shorter too.
Oh, there we go. And Little Red Riding Hood has entered the picture. So anyway, it's not a very good example because I didn't make her realistic, and I didn't specify to keep the 3 people in there, but I could go back and I could say, not bad, but keep the original aspect ratio.
Wow.
And make sure that John, Marcel, and Jim are all still in the picture. Make Riding Hood look more like a realistic person and make her an adult. Now that's a hell of a lot to throw at it. So let's see.
Yep.
Like this is really pushing the boundaries,
taken a
because I've
cartoon and
given
said, make this photorealistic.
age her into an adult and put her in the original picture with the three of us. So let's see. And again, I'm sure you've seen this, you've noticed this already, but it is fast.
Yeah.
You know, like if you ask ChatGPT to generate an image, it still takes 30, 45 seconds to generate an image. Whereas
sometimes
this
you
thing,
have to get up and just get your coffee because it's
exactly.
a long time. Okay.
Okay, well that's actually not bad, but it still kept her a cartoon. I guess I should have mentioned that she's not a cartoon; she's actually a real human being.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get the idea.
People can play with this, but this is definitely a step up, and in a commercial sense, I think. Like I said, one of the problems I have is, diffusion models, and we talk a lot about large language models, and we probably obsess about those. This is a diffusion model, different idea totally, in terms of AI. You're shaking your head, Marcel, but it really is. It is something that we don't talk a lot about. But the ability to generate these pictures and to be able to edit them, be able to move them around, this could save hours. And and for anybody, and because especially if, and it's not just that it saves hours, it cuts out a whole pile of things. And this has been, and I go back over this. When I started out doing the podcasts, I had to have a sound editor who did the daily sound stuff. I needed a video editor. I needed to schedule everything with them. I liked working with them, don't get me wrong. I really like it even if somebody else took over all that work. But I had to schedule it with them. They had to get it into their stuff. I had to put this together so that I would record the podcast at 4:00. The editor, we hired somebody in Calgary so that they were 2 hours different. And if we missed any of those timelines, we're just dead. Or if it's Saturday and I'm trying to put some marketing material together, I've got to wait till Monday until I can get a hold of my video editor. Or if even for the book cover, just killed me when we did the audio version of the book, which is sort of out, but I've got to go do some little. I still want to do some changes to it, but it's actually out. You can get it on Audible. But I suddenly needed a new picture. Oops! It's Saturday. It's 8:00 at night when I'm doing the work. I either stop and wait, or I can use a program to actually do the editing of the images. This is, people talk, we did that stupid MIT report that said, only 5% of AI projects give you any benefit. If this doesn't give you a benefit, then I don't know what will. That's great.
They've certainly come a long way in a very short period of time.
Oh, no question whatsoever. There's amazing stuff happening. One of the ones that I'm going to do this in the background here for a second, but I'm going to take as an experiment, I'm going to take the image that we just did of the three of us on the stormy day, and I'm actually going to, VO3 is another image. It's not an image generator, it's a video generator that exists inside of Google Gemini. But I'm going to take our image and I'm going to stick it in VO3 and I'm going to have it generate. Now that takes about 2 minutes. So you have to wait for about 2 minutes for an 8-second clip. And let's just, so I'm going to say, so on this one, I think I have to actually add the photos. So Jim says that he can edit things out here. So we're about to find out if that's the case. Paint. I'm going to do paint because it's really, really simple here. And I'm going to paste the picture and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to say guys on the beach. I'm going to call it guys on the beach. Guys on the beach. Because with VO3, I'm going to need to import an actual image. So I'm going to add a photo. And just so that you see what I'm doing here, let me reshare the screen one more time.
And in case I do edit it, this is 45 seconds later. It's not a long time.
That's right. It's not a long time. So I'm going back to Gemini, but this time we're going to do a video. Okay. So do you see me? Do you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So you can see the picture of the three of us. Okay. So the three guys on the beach are laughing about something. and one of them, because at this point it doesn't know that it's Jim, the guy on the
Just say the
left,
good
or on
looking
the
one.
right, rather.
It'll pick it up.
That might be interesting. Says, welcome to Project Synapse. Okay, so welcome to Project Synapse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to say, so this is a video, a VO3 video. I'm going to start the generation. This is going to take a couple of minutes, so I'll come back to it after it's done. Like I said, this takes about 2 minutes, but it's generating like a 5 or 8 seconds.
This is like one of those cooking shows, right? I'll start this and we'll come back when it's done. Marcel, the chef. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
And then you go to the oven and pull out a completed one.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. Yeah. So anyway, so we'll find out what happens there, and generating your video, and it says this can take 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so to sort of go back, there is going to be one last thing that I want to show here, which is going to be for fun. But you remember I talked about the little watermark thing. If you want to be able to try like a whole bunch of different image generation things, or a whole bunch of different video generation things all in one place, there are a couple of, actually there are more than a couple, but there are quite a few sites out there that allow you to do these things and play with all these different image models and so forth without, putting all your eggs in one basket. Now, again, you can get like several free credits a day to just play, and every day they add more credits. But if you actually want to spend a lot of time generating stuff, generating videos and so forth, you're going to have to pony up some cash. But in those cases, they tend to be fairly inexpensive, like, $8 a month or something like that. Two of the ones that I use semi-regularly, one of them is called FreePik, FreePik. And the free comes from the fact that you can do free image generation, like a whole pile of image generation on it. The other one is called OpenArt, OPEN as in openart.ai. And both of those are fantastic places to do this. And last time I checked, which would have been yesterday, if you use Nano Banana, and I can't remember which one I tried it on. I think I tried it on OpenArt, but I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't generate the watermark on there. Yeah, so if you do it through one of these sites, the watermark isn't there.
You can use Nano Banana through these sites?
And there's no watermark, yes. You remember this months ago we talked about places like Poe.com, which is a Quora company. And if you sign up for their $20 a month, you have access to all of the models, like every model that, hundreds of models, including image models and stuff like that. And by the way, for somebody that isn't sure that they want to go with one of these, first of all, I'd recommend that you don't pay for a year up front on any of these things. Yeah. Okay. Like, it sounds like a great deal. It's like, hey, you get 20% off, if you pay for the year up front. Don't do that. Just pay for the month. And if it turns out somebody else has got something better, you switch for the next month, and you can go back and forth as many times as you want. If you're trying to stay within a decent budget, this is a really good way to do it. But these image video aggregator, model aggregator sites like FreePik and like OpenArt are a great place to experiment with these models. And they'll give you access to not just Nano Banana, but things like Image Gen. You'll have access to Runway ML for video models, and Kling AI for video models, and Hailuo AI. All of these things in one place where you can experiment with them.
That's fabulous. So you get to play with all these different models for one fixed price per month. And I feel like we're huckstering on this stuff, but guys, this is just...
I'm not getting a kickback.
We're trying to help
I just want to say they're
money,
not paying me.
Yeah. It's not that we can't be bought. It's that they haven't offered.
Well, and part of the problem too is you can spend an absolute fortune buying or getting subscriptions to all of these to try them out. But if you can go to OpenArt or FreePik and figure out which tool works best for you, then you can go and pay for that subscription. That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Okay, so just before we move on, this is the last time we'll see the three guys on the beach today, but let me go back to Google Gemini, and this is the video that it generated. Are you ready? Now, you're not going to get the sound, so Jim, you're going to have to, I don't think you can hear the screen sound when I play it, can you?
I don't know. I've never done this on Riverside. We'll find out.
Welcome to Project Synapse.
I sound like John.
So you can see.
I was going to say, you sound like me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Welcome to Project Synapse.
Oh, can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So there you go. So we went through this whole thing where we generated. Now, of course, I didn't include your voice in there. And that's something that I could experiment with and see if that actually works. I'm not 100% sure that will actually work.
You scared me enough with the last video you did.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is pretty good.
Welcome to Project Synapse.
And of course, it only makes the guy on the right, namely you, Jim, say that. So it understood all of the things that I asked it to do. And
now, how long
this
can
is
these
from
videos
starting.
be? Marcel?
What's that? Sorry?
What's the length of these videos?
8 seconds. 8 seconds. But if you have the rather expensive $200 a month pro subscription to Gemini, they also give you access to a tool called Flow. I believe it's called Flow, which is kind of like a video editor where you can take like the final frame and extend the video and stuff like that. So you can do all sorts of things, which is, by the way, how people have done these amazing, like, reporter on the street talking to people videos, in VO3 that you've seen all over YouTube and in social media and stuff like that. This is how they do that. They've got the big expensive model and they just, are stitching all these clips together. Because what you could do is you could take the final frame and then you could extend it. And I did this a while back with, do you remember the little book, Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry?
Oui, oui, yes. Sorry, when you
yes, oui, sorry, I said it in French because, of course, I first encountered it. It's one of my favorite.
That's how we all read it, right? That's...
Yeah. But I did it. What I did was I created an image. I described it. I created an image. And then I put it through VO3 and I captured the final frame in VO3 and I extended it. And I did that with the free tier way back when. And I had, a 16-second long video of the little prince with his sheep beside him, just looking around at the sky and, and his rose in front of him inside the jar. And it was very, very cool. And I did this with free tools, like without actually spending money on VO3. And I did this inside another Google thing called AI Studio. And anyway, so this is last Google thing I'm going to show you, okay? Last Gemini thing. Look over on the side. I just opened up the chat. It says Storybook. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. Storybook is something pretty amazing, okay? It will create an animated flip storybook. So I could say something like this, and I already did a couple of them down there. Sebastian and the Wobbly Tower, Ren's Reality Check. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I create a storybook about 3 boys who want to start a tech podcast. Use anime style images. So use anime style images. So I'm going to go with anime just for fun. Oh no, let's go with Pixar style. Pixar style images for the 3 boys named Jim, John, and Marcel. In the end, their podcast gets picked up by aliens. All right, there we go. I'm sure it'll understand that by aliens I mean like aliens from another planet.
Yeah, I was going to say like in the U.S. this. Yeah, and then Trump gets the Nobel Prize. No, sorry, the wrong type.
Yeah, and then ice breaks in, and the boys lose their podcast, and it's all very sad.
Yeah. God, I met somebody and for our American listeners, I don't apologize to Donald Trump at all, but to you I do, because you're probably nice people if you're listening. But one guy stopped me in the grocery store the other day and said, "You shouldn't go to the U.S., like, I've read your stuff." And I went, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So we got this, and here we go.
So this like the video is going to take a couple of minutes to generate, but when it's done, I'll bring it back and I'll show you. Okay, so this is Storybook as opposed to Notebook, and Notebook is the one that. That's right. Notebook LM. You know what? Like, I'm going to leave Notebook LM because I swear to God, I want to walk away from Google and I want to talk about some of the other things that are
absolutely.
So just for basic chat, doing research and so forth, ChatGPT, GPT-5 is excellent. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's a great product. Claude excels at prose, and it excels at writing code and stuff like that, which is why it's still a darling. But it doesn't do
And
all this,
GPT-5 has
real-time.
evolved on language, by the way. And one of the things that I'll bring up is one of the things that you may benefit from is telling it that you a little more explicitly what you want from it in style. And I've really found that because it makes a decision on which model it's going to pick, you really do have to guide it from time to time. And just saying simple things like, I'd like you to think a little deeper works. I'd like you to take a little more time. I'd like more analysis on this. I'd like this to be longer. So don't hesitate to try and give it some commands, because that was the missing piece. I think a lot of us were expecting what we got from our own model that we were comfortable with. We'd type something in, it would come out. You have to do a little more sculpting on GPT-5, but either they've fixed some things or I'm getting better at prompting it. And
they have fixed some things. They were very candid about the idea that the model switcher that they introduced at the beginning did not work properly. And within a day, they had actually fixed that. All right, so you want to see the storybook because it's done.
I do.
Yes, let's see this.
All right. So let's go to the storybook.
Okay,
so
I've got you. Oh my God, it's got the whole full story. Okay, the whole storybook is there.
Yeah, and then see the animated pages on the bottom there, the page turn.
The animated.
So
page
Jim,
turns,
John, and Marcel were 3 peas in a pod, and there we go. And John is the organized one.
How does it know this stuff?
And of course, you can go back on the pages as well.
Made John organized. Are you sure that we are?
Marcel is the tech guru. All right.
Well, yeah. It's just sucking up to you, though. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so there we go. So we set up our.
This is like a little storybook.
It is.
I'm going to play with this. I might use this for some of the marketing for the podcast. Like, in
cool.
terms of I'll let you know how this works. I might send this to prospective sponsors. And you could, and these are great creative tools. They're fun and they're great to look at. And I urge people to play with them. But my mind keeps clicking ahead going, how could I use that? How could I use that? How could I use that? But that's the nature of how I think. Cool.
Quite impressive, Marcel.
We need a palate cleanser, and we
Marcel.
move off Google. You're going to move us off
Marcel,
Google
you're
to
on mute.
A new world. He's in mute?
He was.
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. And so Tech Trio Talk became the first ever human podcast to be broadcast across the cosmos.
What did they call it?
Their voices echoing through star systems they had only ever dreamed of.
Tech Trio Talk.
Tech
Gee,
Trio.
That's the
Change
name that it
Project
came up
Synapse
with
to
for the
that?
podcast.
Wow. I like Project Synapse, but that's pretty creative.
Okay, so last thing. Listen.
We accept, they all shouted in unison, their voices filled with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. This was it, the beginning of their biggest adventure yet. And so,
But what I wanna know-
Tech Trio Talk became the
Go back
first ever
one
human
page,
podcast
Marcel.
to be brought.
I wanted to know which one of us is the little green guy with 3 eyes.
Is that the guy who's narrating?
No, that narrating is just a voice. It just comes up with a voice to narrate the story for you. And it's your basic, Google Live voice. So Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
So it's a narrated storybook as well.
Yeah, so if you wanted, you could actually do this like on your tablet or something like this. Generate a story for parents that are listening out there that have kids, or parents that have kids who are now adults who now have kids, that you want to read a bedtime story to. You could create a new bedtime every single night. So if the kid, like one of the things I used to do with my son Tristan when he was younger is we'd sit down and he would ask me to make up a story on the spot. And I've actually always been really good at that. So I could just wing it, and I would pick objects in the room or something sitting on a shelf, and I would incorporate that into a bedtime story that I would make it. And of course, I would never remember it the next day. But then later on, he started pushing me to remember by saying, I want you to extend the story from yesterday and say what happens next. So it got really complicated. But this is really cool. It's like, you know, and I can imagine I hate to put it like this, but the kids' book industry going, no, don't do this, because don't buy any books. Just create little flip books on the fly, which you can download and use, you know, on something else. So.
And
That's
don't stop
really
telling
cool.
your kids stories. That I get a little misty when you talk about this, because I used to make up stories for my kids too, and we still read Lord of the Rings. We still did all those things, but one of their favorites was making up a story on the fly. So maybe, you know, maybe you're not as good at that as you think you want to be, and you want a little help. That'd be a great little tool to play with as well. But the other thing, and I go through this, and I don't want to get into the debate about whether, you know, we're going to replace the creative people or whatever on this. But one thing that we talked about, and I was talking about with somebody else about kids and AI, is that we think we're going to take away their ability to think if we let them get addicted to AI, and that's a whole debate. But if you are going to expose them to AI, let them be exposed to something they can create and that they can enrich themselves with. And, you know, and creating a little book about a topic, not a bad idea for a learning exercise. Anyway,
and it can be
for what
more
it's worth.
educational than being addicted to Instagram or Snapchat or one of those things too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Cool. But monitor
Shall
your
we
kids
continue?
when they're
Shall we
using
continue?
AI. Like just warning.
Oh, yeah.
Danger, Will Robinson. I love the picture. By the way, I love the picture of the robot you sent.
You should be there for it. Like, you really should be there for it. There's no question.
Be involved. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, be involved, know what the kids are playing with, and of course, also, you know, like you don't want to be the only one who has no idea what's going on. Like there's a story that somebody posted in our chat, and I'm not making light of this, by the way. I want to make that clear. But somebody posted a story in the chat about how there's a parent somewhere that's suing OpenAI for their son's suicide or something like this. And this happened, by the way, with Character.ai 2 years ago, a year ago, or something like that, where somebody interpreted the role play game that they were going, and the character was saying, come home to me now. And he decided to interpret that as a way, you know, as I commit suicide, you know. And again, this is not, this is, you know, dangerous and important stuff, but it is also, you know, on some level, I think to myself, you know, you need to know what your kids are playing with. You need to know what they're involved with.
And
when my kids were playing video
right
games,
now, Meta's being sued. And by the way, before there was AI, there were people who were talking to your kids. You cannot leave your kids alone with this stuff and not be involved. You have to start from the beginning saying, we're open about this or we don't use it.
And Marcel, just tied in with that story that you were talking about, apparently Sam Altman has come back saying that they're looking at putting in parental controls into ChatGPT.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I was going to say, I don't know how you
They
can
keep
do
it
that,
secure.
but
they can't keep people from hacking it. Do not, in the same, here, put your cybersecurity hat on and we'll tell them the truth. Don't trust technology to protect you. Trust people who are educated, who are suspicious and critical and can think for themselves. And maybe, you know, that's one of the big opportunities we have, because we all talk about how we're going to lose critical thinking, and that is a worry. But having those, if you just dump this on your kids like you're dumping a tablet and you just leave that as a babysitting device, you're playing with fire. Anyway, I'll let you guys finish up, but I'm done. I don't want to lecture people on this, but it is important.
Yeah. No, I'm like I said, I don't mean this to be a lecture, but I do think it's important for parents to know what their kids are playing with. And as I was saying, when my kids were playing video games, I started playing the same video games. I wanted to know what they were playing and what they were seeing on screen and what was happening. And the only way to do that is to actually become part of that world as well. And you know what? Now, mind you, I love video games. So, it wasn't a big stretch for me to do that.
But you can also do it as a means to, I mean, this is a way that you can actually spend more time with your kids, is you can actually teach them how to use some of these tools, like, some of the things that, Marcel, that you've shown us now, is be able to take that and go and sit down with your kids and go, look what I learned today. Look at what you can do with these tools. I think it's, it's a great opportunity.
Or you can learn from them.
That's true too.
It's like my son, when I sat him down for the talk, and my wife said, you got to have the talk with him. Everybody knows the talk is you got to talk. So I got to sit him down at the talk, and I said, we should talk about sex. And he says, sure, Dad, what do you want to know? And, it's I mean, like, it's the same thing with video games. I like to sit down and talk with you about video games. Sure, Dad, we can teach you a little bit about it, so. Something, let your ego take a hit. Learn from them. You may not be as good at it as they are, but
okay.
What's our next adventure here, Mark?
Okay, so I'm going to run through a few things fairly quickly here, just for fun. So we did the videos, and of course there's OpenAI Sora, which is, dramatically, it needs a lot of work. Runway Gen 3 is another big one that's out there. Hailuo, again, go look at something like FreePic or OpenArt if you actually want to check out a bunch of these models without having to go a million different places and you want to know what each one can do. Those are two great ways to do that. I'm going to skip a bunch of, because I think I wrote like 50 different things in this list, so I'm going to skip a bunch of them. Music generation is a blast. It's a lot of fun. There is one out there that I've been using practically since the beginning called Suno. Suno is probably the big daddy of all of these. And Suno is fantastic. And oh, what the hell? Let's do another share screen just one more time here. And I will show you what my Suno workspace looks like. And Suno is really, really cool in the sense that you can do things like, you can generate songs on the fly. You remember I talked about, I'm going to say, let's say style. I wanted it in the style of a 70s rock anthem, and with lots of electronics in the background. And I'm going to say write lyrics, and I'm going to say a song about 3 boys who want to start a podcast, and that podcast gets picked up by aliens.
There's a theme with all of Marcel's things.
I know. Well, listen, I can only think of so many things at once, okay? All right? Okay, good. And then all you have to do is say create. And like I make all sorts of weird, like tomatoes and time, like songs about, tomatoes, through time and stuff like this. So all I have to do now is I wait. It happens very, very quickly, and it generates two songs at a time. You can write your own lyrics. And what I do is, like, when I want to do something, I'll go into ChatGPT and I'll say, I'm thinking about this, and I throw all the elements into it, and I say, and then this happens, and then this happens, and I want you to write the lyrics and verses and stuff like this. And then you go in and you listen to your song.
A song about 3 boys who want to start a podcast, and that podcast gets picked up by aliens.
All right, headbanger music. There we go. That's.
I have to tell you, Marcel, when I first learned about Suno last year, I got some major league brownie points from both my wife and my mother-in-law because I wrote songs for both of them. So there you go, people. You can use it to get some.
You know what? I've done that for people's birthdays. And they love that. Yeah. It's cool. It's like. It makes it feel personal at that point, because especially if you introduce the elements of their lives into it, something, it's this age, it's this time, this is what happened sometime in the past. And I've done this for like my parents for their anniversary. I've done this for relatives for birthdays. Yeah, it's fun. And it's just for them. It's something that you did for them. So It's absolutely highly recommended.
Or you could write a song and play it on an instrument and go to a studio like I do, but
Where's the fun in that?
Those who can do that sort of stuff, obviously, but not everybody is as talented as you are, Jim. All right, moving on.
I'm an
Moving
AI
on.
apparently, though, so it's okay.
Yes.
Hey, that's a perfect lead-in to. So, by the way, Udio is another one. Udio is not my personal favorite. One that's an up-and-comer that I actually have access to, but you have to sign up for it. It's called producer.ai, and it was originally called Refusion, okay? And it was trying to apply the diffusion models to music generation. And one of the reasons it's really, really cool is it's a conversation with a music producer. You say, I'm thinking of a song that's like this, and I'm looking for this kind of a background beat track or something like that, and then you generate the beat track. I'd like it to be a little bit faster. Can you up it to 4/4 time, 120 beats per minute? All this stuff, and you have this back and forth conversation with your music producer to generate a song, to incorporate all of the elements that you want into it. So instead of, writing a prompt, or generating the lyrics, you're actually having a conversation about the song that you want to create, called producer.ai. Again, it's invitation only. I have access to it because I was there like in the very beginning of Refusion. But I think this one is going to be really, really impressive when it opens up to the whole world, because it's not just you generate a prompt. It sort of takes away this whole notion of you're not involved in the process by making you integral to the process, because you're directing it at every step of the way. You're the producer, defining how the music is made, what it sounds like, tweaking it, all these sorts of things. Very, very, very cool. Look for that one, sometime soon, presumably. But if you go to producer.ai, you can sign up on the wait list, and that, you might find that a lot of fun, especially if you're, like Jim, a real musician.
Well, yeah, and if you're like me and you're scared about this, and I am concerned about it as a musician, you can't deny reality. It's happening, and that's one of the reasons why I'm saying we have to discuss this stuff. We have to show it. It's there. It's not going to go away because we wish it away. That's not going to happen. And so we have to find a way to make our peace with that. And I think that's going to be a challenge for musicians. It really is. It's an issue and something we talk about. I won't drag the program through it, but I think that it's something that we, and even Robert Sawyer and I had discussion about this, and he's, the author that as well, Marcel, and there's a big debate.
My brother from another mother.
Yeah. But it's something. My caution is, even if you're like me and you're going, whoa, I'm not so sure, you go out and check this stuff out. See it for yourself. Don't let somebody else make up your mind for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've already, it's no big surprise to anybody that's listening to this or anybody that's known me for any length of time, but I've already made my peace with this. And in fact, it's obvious which side of the fence I've landed on. I see these as tools that can improve and enhance your creativity if you use them to their capabilities, to their full capacities. Because you could just say, do the little prompt and whatever, but you could be involved in the, in the creative process every step of the way. I want to incorporate this. I want to do this sort of thing. And then there's real work going into it. It's not, I wrote a prompt and something happened. It's like, no, I was integral to the process. There is as much of my creativity and my vision in this, as there is the AI. The AI is allowing me to make things faster and using tools that I would never be, or at least that I sure as hell don't have the time to learn. So it's raising the bar for me, but I'm still involved in the process. And I think if you treat AI as a coworker, as an editor, as the person that you hired, to do some of the little grunt work for you, I think that you'll start to understand that it's not just taking things away. It is enhancing your own ability to create.
My brother-in-law is an artist, and I was a little worried about that too for him, because, I can go and create art, but he actually uses it to enhance his art. I'll call it his art offerings, because he will create some art in paintings. He will create some as digital art. He will take some that he's created in digital art and enhance it with painting. So there's I think it has to be it's new ways to do things utilizing the new tools. I mean, Jim, if you look back years ago with music, I remember I was on a business trip once and I was in a hotel bar and it was a one-man band, but guess what? He had a Mac and was playing, sorry, Marcel. He was playing a bunch of the instrumental things on that, and so he had that and he was playing the piano. So he was using the computer to enhance his music. And
and there are those of us like when I'm doing a recording, I will not use a synth. I will not use a synth instrument. I just won't. I'll use a live person on that. So there's a whole thing there's a whole world of this. But I remember too when Bob Dylan played an electric guitar at the folk festival and was pilloried for it and almost got out of music because of that. When the band Dylan went electric, it was insane. The amount, the reaction that you saw to it, and we've seen this throughout, and in studios, like even though I will not use a synth instrument in the studios, we're using a digital studio. I mean, and fully using it. So it's a continuum. Anyway, longer debate. I want to stick. We always get distracted and we don't get to the tools that you want to show because we.
It's my fault. It's my fault. Funny enough. So I'm going to follow this up. So I'm going to segue as sweetly as I can into the next thing using this. So if what you do, like pretend for a second that like me, let's say you go and you change your Facebook profile picture, but it's actually you, but you used an AI tool to generate you in a place where you weren't. You dress yourself up in a suit that you don't own and so forth. Like right now, I used a picture of me that I took just a couple of days ago. I used Nano Banana, aka blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I used that to put me in a nice suit that I don't own and put me in a wine cellar holding a glass of red wine. And that is now my profile picture. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, yes, it's an AI generated image, but I'm not taking anything from anywhere else. That image is me. Okay, it is actually an image of me in a different environment. I took the three of us and I put us on Toronto Island. Like, it's still the three of us. So now if I generate a digital twin of myself, so I take a picture of me, John, I did this with you.
AI Marcel.
Where I had you. I did an AI, I did the AI Marcel. But I did an AI John as well, so that you could be part of the show when you had a cold, a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, whenever. Yep. So I had you in there, on the show, despite the fact that you couldn't actually talk. And then, of course, I made the, Marcel sitting at a Paris cafe saying, yes, John is right. John is often right, though we don't always give him credit for it. So I actually did make that. It's in the Discord, Project Synapse Discord, for anybody that wants to take a look at it.
By the way, I play that nightly while my wife is sleeping, so I'm hoping it might actually sing in.
But both of, at least the first one, I'm not sure about the second one, but the Marcel, but the first one was limited. You got the feeling it was good, but it was clever. The one you've done of me recently is scary.
Okay, and we're going to do that right now because I'm going to play it right now in the show. I'm going to share the screen and play it because I'm going to show you how I did that.
That'd be good.
Okay, so that if you want to do it, you can do it as well. So let's do the sharing the screen, and I'm going to pull up the somewhere in here it is. Where the heck is it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Discord, and I'm going to go. So I'm going to bet that I can share this screen because this is Discord Showcase. So do you see yourself there?
I can. Yep.
Okay. Is it full screen now?
Yes, sir.
It's as full screen as I get, but I'm not sure.
All right. All right, so people, so watch and listen. This is me, and I did this yesterday. Okay, so this hasn't taken me weeks to do. I did this yesterday, and I'll show you how it's done. Now listen.
In an astonishing turn of events this morning, residents of Waterloo, Ontario, were left bewildered as a luminous, disc-shaped craft touched down with an ethereal hum on the roof of the Canadian Tire store on Weber Street. Emergency services quickly cordoned off the area as three slender, green-skinned beings, reportedly no taller than a fire hydrant, emerged from the craft. Speaking in a series of high-pitched whistles and clicks translated by an impromptu AI, the extraterrestrial visitors issued their demands: immediate access to an unlimited supply of hockey pucks, a lifetime subscription to Canadian Tire Money, and the complete works of Bryan Adams. Authorities are currently scrambling to address these peculiar requests, assuring the public that negotiations are underway to prevent any intergalactic incident.
Now, this is scary. Like when you look at this video, even down to the weird eyebrows, you shouldn't have to watch this stuff if you're. I never watch videos of myself. I have to edit them, but I do it as quickly as I can get away with it. But even the friggin' eyebrow thing that I do, that, and I always, with your eyebrows go up, and yeah, oh man, that's scary.
So. Yeah, it is. But here's the thing here, okay? So, I'm going to bring up the ethical question here. So let's pretend that you, Jim, for whatever reason, I don't know, you've got a bad cold that day, but you still want to do the show, and you've got your script ready. You could have AI Jim read all of that stuff for you in your voice. Or I could do a video, and I have done a couple of these where it was just for fun. I did one which was like a noir thing where, it's all in black and white and done in the 1930s, Sam Spade sort of stuff. But again, it's me, it's my voice, it's my words. And, except in this case, obviously, I wrote the script of the aliens landing on the Canadian Tire roof. That obviously was not you, and I know I did this without your permission, but, it was for the show, so.
No, but how did you get by that, by the way?
First of all, how did you do it? Okay.
First, what's the tool you're using to do this?
Okay, so the first thing that I did was I used a YT-DLP, which is a command line tool, which, by the way, is available for Windows, and it's available for Linux and Mac. And what it does is it allows you to download a video from YouTube. So you do this and you download it. But you can also specify download the audio only. Okay?
Yeah.
So what I did was I downloaded the audio. I imported the audio into Audacity, which is an open source audio editor. And I know that you've used it, Jim. In fact, I'm pretty sure you've used it.
Almost everybody does.
Everybody does. It's an exceptional piece of software, and it's like industry quality. It's great stuff. But so I imported it, and I trimmed it down to about a 50-second long. I could do your voice in 10 seconds or something like that. But by the time you get to about a minute, there's enough of your intonation and enough of the emotion that you put into what you say that the AI is able to interpret that and bring that into the presentation. Okay? So that's the first step. And then I took a screenshot of you on yesterday's hashtag trending. So I took yesterday's hashtag trending. I took a screenshot of you. I made sure that there was nothing else on the screen. So I had it playing, and I took a screenshot while you were talking. I did a couple so that, you weren't like this or with your eyes closed or something. I wanted to make sure that I had, a full face. And of course, I did this one as a vertical video, much like we are seeing each other on the screen. I know that that's not what people are seeing if they're watching this, but we see each other as, as vertical, like as phone screen. Anyway, I digress. So what I did then is I had that screenshot, I had that piece of audio, and so I use these tools to get those things. In the screenshot, you can use whatever screenshot tool you want to do that. And then I went to something called Heygen. Now, there are multiple digital twin applications out there. There's Synthesia, there's DID. My favorite still to this day is Heygen, and it's the one that I use to do these sorts of things. And I've been using it for months, and I love this thing. But I'm about to share my screen to show you what it looks like here, okay? So let's go to the share screen. And
you're right, Heygen's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the product just keeps getting better and better and better all the time. So So this thing is improving constantly. So if you take a look at my screen here, Avatar 4 just got personal. This is their latest digital twin implementation. And again, I've seen this improve dramatically over time to the point where using Avatar 4, which is the latest and greatest, is what I got yesterday, what I did with you yesterday. And there are all sorts of things that you can do here. Now, I've got a bunch of avatars that I brought in. You can create, see, this is where I did Jim last time, right?
No.
And, or I could go with Marcel. I did a bunch of things with Marcel. Or I did an avatar where I have, where I've got Marcel in all sorts of different positions in all sorts of different places. Like, you know, so that I can have myself walking along, talking in all these different places. I've generated all these different environments, which, by the way, you can do in Heygen, but the Nano Banana image editor that puts you in different places is so much better than this. Okay, and maybe they'll incorporate this in here, but Nano Banana, I can say things, you know, have me hold on to this, put this different shirt on me. Like if I just want a different shirt on, I can do that in Nano Banana. It's not quite so easy to do over in Heygen, but what Heygen has going for it is the ability to do all sorts of really cool things. So for voices, for instance, it actually uses 11 labs on the back end to do these things. So what I did here with Jim is I did create new voice, and I can say instant voice cloning, or I can generate a voice and I can describe what the voice looks like. I want a giant robot with an echoey voice. And, you know, so I can do stuff like that. And I can say, what's the name of your voice? And I can say giant robot. And I can say, you know, prompt giant robot with an echoey. How the hell do you spell echoey?
Yeah.
That'll do for now. With an echoey metallic voice booming from within. So it's tough to type on a screen when you're trying to do multiple things. From within, there you go. Generate voice, and it will create a voice based on your description. And of course, you can just create a bunch of these if you want. It's obviously busy creating the voice here at the moment. I haven't done the voice generation, so you might have to edit this down, Jim, because I don't know how much time this is going to take. Typically speaking, it's not very long. Ta-dum, ta-dum, ta-dum. So how you guys doing anyway? I'll just close that for the moment. Anyway, the other thing that we can do as well is we can create a new voice, but we can do instant voice cloning. And you remember, Jim, I said that I took a 50-second clip of you. I'm aware of my voice will be used by Heygen to use and create a synthetic version. And then you say upload the audio file, and then the MP3 file that you use will be used to generate the voice. And there's Jim's voice that I did yesterday.
Hey there, here's how I sound. Hope you like it. The right voice brings avatar videos to life.
And of course, I did this forest wizard, which was a voice that I auto-generated. And this was one where I gave it a description of
Hey
the
there,
voice.
here's how I sound. Hope you like it. The right voice brings avatar videos to life.
And then, of course, I did John. Now, this one was a little while ago. But even the voices in that 11 Labs create.
Hey there,
in here,
here's how I sound. Hope you like it. The right voice brings avatar videos to life.
Wow.
There you go. Wow. So now I've generated. So just to go back over the steps quickly, I downloaded the audio from one of the videos, or if you want, you can use, record your own voice if you want. And then you edit it with Audacity, save it as an MP3 file, or you can just record on the fly. You can do whatever you want, but it's best to do it that way so you can clean it up and have it sound as good as possible. And then you've got a screenshot, which you then use for an avatar, and you create the new voice here, which you can then use like Jim's voice here. Now, if I go back to create video here, and I can say create custom portrait, and now I use whatever voice it is that I want. Oh, this should be fun. So let's do this. So I'm going to do the avatar for it, and for the voice, I'm actually going to use a different voice. I'm going to use, this should be hilarious. So I'm going to use Jim's voice as opposed to me. And I'm going to say, this is what it sounds like when somebody uses your voice. Anyway, so this is obviously very, very short.
And you
then
pasted my voice onto your picture.
That's right, exactly. And I can say generate, and well, I'm not going to bother titling it. Marcel is Jim. And I can say submit, and it will generate a video of me talking. This shouldn't take too long because it's a very short video, so it shouldn't take us long. This one here, because it's 53 seconds long, this is the reporting that you did from Canadian Tire. It takes a little bit longer, but while that's generating, I'll show you the Jim is right.
I don't say this often enough, but here it is. John is right. In fact, John is usually right, even if we don't say it to his face.
You mean John is right? There's no Jim is right video. I'm jealous. Yeah. So they're accepting any voice on this. There's no filter.
They're accepting any voice. Like the onus is on you to have the rights to use the voice. Is really what it comes down to.
Because that was a problem at one point. You had to actually, at one point, some of these things you actually had to give it a live clip that it could match to your voice. So that's gone. Yeah,
but the fact of the matter is, it's virtually impossible for and I mean, I am not a lawyer. Let's be clear here, but it's virtually impossible to say, I've compared this voice and it's obviously the voice of this other person. You remember the big kerfuffle that happened when OpenAI came out with their version of the her voice? What's her name? Despite the fact that Scarlett Johansson, despite the fact that they actually had hired a voice actor to be the voice, but as far as Scarlett Johansson and her lawyers were concerned, at least this is the way that I understand it, it sounded too much like her, despite the fact that they didn't use her voice. They used someone who sounds like her, which of course gets really sticky, because what happens if your voice sounds like, I don't know, John Wayne? That's actually what your voice sounds like.
Well, yeah.
Even if you're not John Wayne, that's what your voice sounds like. Are you not allowed to use your own voice at that point?
Yeah.
Right? Or if you look like, I don't know, if you look like Jim Carrey, I'm picking somebody out of the air here. If you look like Jim Carrey, are you not allowed to do videos of yourself because you look like Jim Carrey? I think the only important question there would be, are you representing yourself as that person? Are you implying that the voice you hear is that other person?
Yeah, that because voices are similar, and there's you never see me and Julio Iglesias singing in the same place, but you might.
No, you never do.
No,
you
I've
never
seen that.
Yeah. Or Frank Sinatra. I'm waiting for the lawsuit any day now. But that's the thing is well, and I joke about that. I do a jazz band with some people, and we do a lot of Sinatra stuff, and it's hard not to try to sound like him. So you get that. But what about tribute bands? You get these tribute bands.
Well, presumably tribute bands have the blessing of the of the artists. I mean, when you're doing a public performance, you do pay to perform another artist's songs.
You pay for the use of the material. Yeah,
that's correct. Yes.
If the place is licensed, and there are lots of places that aren't. But I'm just saying, we've had this idea of it's really we're going to push the limits on what happens here. This will be the next content piece. I mean, we've already seen it with the Scarlett Johansson suit, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially if you're similar, but not quite there. That's probably an interesting thing. I think, honestly, OpenAI would have won that lawsuit. And I'm not a lawyer, but I suspect they would have won the lawsuit. But it just wasn't worth the bad publicity, and Sam Altman is obsessed with Scarlett Johansson, so he wasn't going to make her angry.
Well, he's obsessed with the movie Her, so yeah. I don't know if that necessarily translates into Scarlett Johansson.
Well, he really loves that movie. This is a big influence on him. As a matter of fact, it's very funny, but when we write the history of this century, that movie may have done more to advance generative AI than any other thing that has happened, just by the inspiration of what it did to Altman and his idea of AI and what it could do.
Okay, so apparently, according to ChatGPT, I just had to look this up. According to ChatGPT, there is no active litigation on this thing. There was a threat of litigation, but it never happened. No lawsuit was ever filed. No court filings, no case numbers, nothing.
There you go.
So read that any way you want. So just to move away from that. So hopefully I've shown a bunch of, really fun things that we can do with this. We've talked about things like vibe coding, for instance. I use a tool called Cursor on a regular basis. Although I've played with Windsurf as well, I like Cursor a lot better.
Yeah. I want to do a whole coding show. And
I think we should. Because there are,
if you're listening to this, I'll edit it as best I can to try and make it work in the audio podcast version of this, but this is also a learning experience for us. But I do want to do a coding show because I think we need to focus on that. There's so much that's like these tools. There's so much that's been said. There's so many emotional arguments that are out there, and I think it's a question of taking a look at it and walking through it. Now, Marcel, you're going to send me a list in the next hour of the links to all the stuff you've talked about. So we will put in a list of links for you on the show notes, and they'll also be on the
Or
YouTube.
you can just ask ChatGPT to read the document and give you the links.
That's so funny because somebody said that to me.
Brilliant idea.
But somebody actually asked me about, and I try to do the links, but there's only so many things you can do in a day. I produce 2 podcasts a day and 2 weekly podcasts in that same week. And by the way, this is not my full-time job. We exist totally on donations. I mean, that's just to pay those bills. So this is not like, so some guy wrote me and said, well, you're not putting the show notes together with all the links. And I went, get Perplexity and just ask it about the story. The title of the story, it'll give you a list of possible stories at the end of it. And they'll be either mine or, well, if they're mine, you can find them on technewsday.com. But if they're not, then you can just ask Perplexity. It'll give you a list of the stories that are possible. And, even if I want to ask it, I'm going to experiment with this, but I'll bet you if I ask it about the tool that Marcel was talking about that did this, it'll probably respond with the right link.
There's no doubt. And search has changed. And you did a story today on today's hashtag trending about how, very few people actually go to, the site to find the information. They just accept the information that the AI gives you. And that's going to include things like links as well. I'm sure of it. You're not going to sit there and scroll through a bunch of sponsored ads. You're going to go directly to the site, that you want to work with. Before I wrap this up, like I said, I had other things on the list. And you can take a look at the list. I've got things like vibe.
We could.
I know.
This next
But I've got things in there like vibe coding tools, and I've got things like writing tools and stuff like that. But I want to end this by and by the way, this week more than any others, if you're listening to the audio of this, go and take a look at the video, because the stuff that I was showing you on screen are in fact very, very cool, and it helps to see, in this case, what's happening more than any other show that we've done, I think.
Or go to our Discord.
I will post it on the Discord.
Yeah. And for those of you who are listening to the show, Marcel, if you're interested in this stuff, Marcel posts regularly to the Discord all kinds of these things. So if you want to get the latest on what he's playing with, check out the Discord site, because it's generally in there. There's something, he'll pop a video up there or something that he's just discovered, and you'll find that. I'm not as big a poster on there as Marcel is, but there's a lot of stuff up there.
Well, Marcel is the guy who made the channel, so or the Discord.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So we go there and you'll see the latest stuff as well.
Okay, can I throw one last thing as we wrap here?
Yep, absolutely.
You remember I talked about one of the things that made Nano Banana so cool, or Gemini Flash 2.5 image generator so cool. Nano Banana sounds so much better.
But it's just the creativity. I'm going to say this. When is Google going to cut these guys loose? Nano Banana. What a wonderful thing. Gemini 2.5.
Ask the AI to come up with a name, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Anyway, so I'm going to share my screen one last time, because I want to show at least part of this video. And, Jim, you can trim it as much as you want or not at all. But remember I talked about the idea of what makes the model so amazing is its understanding of real-world physics, real-world locations. It remembers what's around you. It understands that if there's this thing falling, it's going to have this kind of an impact. And this is all built into an image generator. And there are some theories out there that what they're actually using on the back end is a new thing called Genie 3, which is a real world interactive video model. And the reason Nano Banana is so cool is because it's taking screenshots of, so what it's doing is it's delivering screenshots of this real world model generation on the fly. And if that's even remotely true, we're in for, well, you've watched, I mean, we're all Star Trek people. John, you better be a Star Trek person or you're out of here, dude.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make it so. Anyway, so the holodeck is right around the corner. So I'm going to share the screen one last time today.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, this is the last screen share of the day. And
what you're seeing are not games or videos. They're worlds.
Yes.
Each one of these is an interactive environment generated by Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. With Genie 3, you can use natural language to generate a variety of worlds and explore them interactively, all with a single text prompt. Let's see what it's like to spend some time in a... Genie 3 has real-time interactivity, meaning that the environment reacts to your movements and actions.
And
you're not walking through a pre-built simulation. Everything you see here is being generated live as you explore it. And Genie 3 has world memory. That's why environments like this one stay consistent. World memory even carries over into your actions. For example, when I'm painting on this wall, my actions persist. I can look away and generate other parts of the world. But when I look back, the actions I took are still there. And Genie 3 enables promptable events, so you can add new events into your world on the fly. Something like another person or transportation. Or even something totally unexpected. You can use Genie to explore real-world physics and movement, and all kinds of unique environments. You can generate worlds with distinct geographies, historical settings, fictional environments, and even other characters. We're excited to see how Genie 3 can be used for next-generation gaming and entertainment. And that's just the beginning. Worlds can help with embodied research, training robotic agents.
Okay, now if people are listening to this on the audio podcast, you can't have seen that video. I do urge you to go and take a look at it. We will put a link.
And I will have that in the Discord. I will post this video in the Discord, okay? So it will be there.
But basically,
in fact,
with
I'll do
the
it
prompt
right now,
command,
so that's in the
you've
Discord.
created a world. It has the physics of that world. People can move around in it. It is an absolutely incredibly real experience, and nothing like the stilted things that we may be used to seeing. This is... I can't imagine where the video game industry goes after this, when you can have your own virtual world there, you know.
Like I said, it's the holodeck. It's Star Trek's holodeck.
It's a whole
it's
new
real.
world when you
now
get
the crazy
all of
thing is this
stuff
must
in place.
cost a fortune to deliver in terms of processing, and yet Google's delivering it for free right now. At least,
well, you can't actually technically access Genie 3 at the moment. It's not available. It's available, I'm assuming, to some developers and stuff like that, but it's not available to the public at the moment. But that engine exists, as in this is a real thing that they have. They just haven't made it available yet. And as far as the cost of this stuff, I don't have time. I mean, we don't have time because, you know, I know we're trying to wrap here. But the costs of delivering inference, in other words, you know, the images on the fly, the information on the fly, the videos on the fly, all of these things has been dropping steadily as time goes on. So this stuff is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to deliver all the time. And I think that, you know, like this, regardless of this whole, you know, AI is hitting a wall nonsense that we keep hearing about, because somebody out there really wants to believe that we're hitting a wall. We're not. And we are increasingly able to deliver more and more amazing things for a lower and lower cost. And it's a whole new world. And like I said, you know, the holodeck is around the corner. Like, so, and this is, imagine doing this in VR. Like I have a Quest 3 headset, and imagine having a world that is created that you can interact with that looks realistic on the fly. This is, yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the holodeck.
Yeah. Well, and they're going to be, I mean, sure they already are, focusing on how do we make this cheaper, right? Without having to have tons and tons of processing power. And as soon as they do that, this stuff's just going to explode.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, there's some valid papers that talk about the issue of processing and where we're going to run up against it and all that sort of stuff. However, there are equally valid papers I read on the death of Moore's Law every 3 years too. So, and I've said that before, is this is not going, this genie is not going back in the bottle.
No.
That's not going to happen. People are going to find a way to process this, and they're going to find a way to bring this about. And obviously Google has. I mean, there's probably a lot more. And that's what I think people don't actually realize right now. And this is not my version of a conspiracy theory, but the model you're seeing right now of GPT-5, I'm betting is trained by a better model. The stuff that you're seeing from Gemini is what they've got in their lab.
It's already been said.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have all but admitted that this is actually the case. So you can bet that there's far more interesting things in the back. And again, I apologize for spending as much time as I did on Google today, but there's a reason for it. So I'm done. This is as much as I'm going to show you today. Cool. We can talk about
Thank you, Marcel.
In another show, but that's a wrap
this
for
was fun.
me.
Thank you for doing all this work on this, Marcel.
informative.
This has been great. If you have questions, if you're listening to this and you have questions, like I said, join the Discord would be a good thing to do, or post the questions and we'll try and answer them because we meet weekly, so we'll try and deal with those. So you can put those under the video on YouTube if you don't want to join the Discord, or just go to technewsday.com and you can put a comment in there on the contact us form. However you want to do it, we'll be glad to take any feedback you have on this and try and figure out how we can share this with you. Because, by the way, we benefit from it as well. Marcel did all the work on this week. Some of these things I knew about because I keep up with them. Some of them I'm sure John knows about them too. But seeing it all together and having somebody go through all the work of producing this stuff opens your eyes a lot.
Yes, for sure.
So that's
frightening.
Now that we have the holodeck, live long and prosper.
Live long and
prosper.
That's Project Synapse for this week. As I said, this was an experiment. I hope for those of you who listened, we created enough of a picture in your mind to make the audio podcast interesting. And if you want to catch up on the notes and links, I will post the show notes by late Saturday afternoon at the latest, earlier if I can. You can find those at technewsday.com or .ca. Take your pick. Go to the podcast page where you can find the links to this and other past podcasts. You'll be able to find the YouTube video and the show notes all in the same place. technewsday.com or .ca. There will be links to all of the items Marcel referred to and more. And if you're interested in a custom workshop for your group or company, we do offer a limited number of these as well. Love to hear your comments. There's a contact us form on the site, or if you're watching on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video. And if you like this, why not send it to a friend? Our audience has doubled over the past 6 months, but we'd still like to grow more and reach more people. And if you're so inclined, consider supporting the podcast with a donation. Just as little as a cup of coffee a month, just click the donate tab on the site. I'm your host, Jim Love. I'll be back on Tuesday morning with the tech news. And until then, have a wonderful weekend.